these are my top 10 favorite myths about guitars and guitar players. Let's go. True bypass equals better tone. Not necessarily. True bypass actually makes for a longer signal path from your guitar to your amp. So a buffered bypass, which is the opposite of a true bypass, might actually help you retaining some of the high end that you can lose when you have a very long signal path. So in most cases, a buffered bypass will help you getting a better tone, but you also have good buffers and you have bad buffers, so you should get a good one. You should never touch tubes or valves without wearing gloves. Well, actually, I've heard a couple of amp builders and techs talk about this, and the only reason actually to wear gloves when you're touching the tubes are in cases when they are very warm. If they are cooled down, there's no reason to wear any gloves or protection at all. The infamous Klon Centaur has diodes made from unicorn tears. I don't expect anyone to actually believe this, but there's been a lot of discussion on what types of diodes that has been used in the Klon Centaur. Bill Finnegan, the builder and inventor of the Klon, revealed a couple of years ago that he used the 1N34A diode. And actually a lot of people got it right when they were trying to clone the Klon. And they are quite common, and you can probably find a batch of those diodes on eBay if you are looking for some. To be able to get Eddie Van Halen's Brown sound, you would need a variac transformer and turn up the voltage into your amp. This is kind of a myth that Eddie started himself, and he was just fooling around in an interview, and he has later stated that he didn't actually turn up the voltage, but he turned it down. He was actually starving the amp for power, and he has also stated that he felt really bad about this, and he was very concerned that some of his fans was actually turning up the power into their amps and blowing them, and I think that might have happened to a lot of people. So here's another myth for you. To be able to get the Queens of the Stone Age guitar sound, you would need a big muff, and you would have to use the neck pickup on your guitar. This is something that I've done quite a lot of research on, and from what I've seen, Josh is mostly using his bridge pickup, and I've never seen him use any big muffs. He's mostly using cranked amps with maybe some mid boost in front of. I've never seen him use a big muff. I've seen him use the neck pickup for some solos, but mostly the bridge pickup. Expensive guitars are better than cheaper ones. In many cases this might be true, but it has a lot to do with quality control. I worked in a guitar store many years ago, and I've seen a lot of good cheap guitars coming in. And the biggest difference that I could see from cheaper to more expensive guitars was that more of the more expensive ones were better than the cheaper ones, but you could still find really good cheap guitars. A rule here is always to try a guitar before you buy one. You might end up saving a lot of cash if you find a good cheap guitar. Thicker strings equal better tone. Not necessarily true. Big players like Jimmy Page, Bill Gibbons are using thinner strings, and they sound quite amazing. What I think can impact your tone is your playing technique, and often when you have thicker strings you tend to play a bit harder, so I think that's some of the reason behind the myth. Eddie Van Halen invented the two-handed tapping. Well, I think Eddie made it available to the whole world of rock and roll, but actually Jimmy Webster published an instruction manual for the touch method already in 1952. And I've seen that Jimmy actually learned it from someone else before that, and that was Harry D. Armand. So the last myth on this list is something that I picked up from Phil X. And my guess is that most of you play the famous riff from Deep Purple like this. But according to Phil X, Ritchie Blackmore actually recorded and played the riff on the 2 thickest strings, and to me it sounds a lot closer to the recording than the more traditional method that we all have learned up and through the years. So that's my top 10 favorite myths of guitars and guitar players. Hope you learned something new today. Hope to see you on my channel later. Subscribe if you haven't already, comment and like and all of that stuff. Goodbye, see you in the next one.